Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. We have the October 12th COVID-19 Financial Overview Committee. Thank you. And we've got, first up on our agenda today is actually the workforce development with Urban League and Nashville State Community College. We've had some initial presentation, and we've got folks from those organizations to come on back up, answer some questions that you all had, and they've revised their proposal, so I think they have some additional information to share. Good afternoon. Come on up. I think we have both mics working, and I also learned the light will not go on. So we are good.
Well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to everyone.
I think there's a few new people, just one, so I want to make sure I introduce myself. I'm Shauna Jackson. I'm the president of Nashville State Community College, and what I hope you have is a copy of a revised proposal, and then also, if they were able to receive the question and answer sheet. So we thought we would just not read this to you, but try to address some of the things that we heard from you last time that we're hoping we've been able to resolve. We understand you're probably going to have more questions, so we are certainly here to take them now or write them down and return a response to you. So we appreciate this opportunity. I told Clifton I would go first. He went first last time. So what I want to do is, first of all, thank you. You all are volunteering a lot of time to do this. And I know you have some difficult decisions to make. I want to start actually with question 4, because this was a very good question about, is this aspirational or is this proof of concept? And I think we batted around that as far as Clifton and I in our responses. So I want to make sure I start there, because I think that's our why. I think that's the why we're asking for this funding. Now, Nashville State has been doing education and training for over 52 years. We are not new to creating educational programs, curriculum, whether it's credit bearing or working to customize training for workforce. I mean, that's what we do. So that part is not new. I have been in higher education for over 25 years. You know, I think what we are saying is we want to take the lessons that we have learned, the hard lessons we have learned about why students don't complete, why when access is available through a Tennessee Promise or a Reconnect or even free training, people don't come and they don't stay if they do. We're trying to address that. And so this whole idea, for me, again, I said it last time, was to take the college to the community. That is not something that Nashville State has done. Do we have off-campus locations? Have we had classes here? But we're talking about really redesigning a system, and I think it's important to keep that in mind. So what is new is the Ready to Reconnect piece, and I'm going to talk more about the Nashville State role, and Clifton will address the Urban League, that this is something I think is going to be quite candidly game-changing. What we are saying is, before we just offer training programs, we want to make sure we take the participants and spend some time with them, understand academically where they are by assessing them, take the time to do the career assessment piece, and really talk about what it is it's going to take to be whatever that is that they have in their mind, and then really working to identify and eliminate those barriers. That happens after they enroll currently. They get to Nashville State, or they see a program in whatever community, and they go in, and then you discover, I've got transportation issues, I've got child care issues, I've got these issues. So what we're proposing is to go into the communities, start with that Ready to Reconnect, and again, I'm talking about the Nashville State portion, because there's things that have to happen before then, and really create an agile system of training. We talked a little bit about, well, do you just start with one particular program? I honestly don't think that's the right thing to do. Because if we just said, hey, we're going to take healthcare, I'm going to take medical assisting, or I'm going to take IT, you could have a class of 30 people and Ready to Reconnect and only 2 want to take that particular program. So I think what is the beauty of this proposal is being able to take what we do to scale and bring in the diverse programs that we offer, and then also connect with other people. Just as a reminder, it's not just about Nashville State. There's training happening all over the place. How do we connect, Ready to Reconnect, and say, this program is actually the right path for you? So that's what I wanted to start with, that the aspiration piece is more about the opportunity to redesign and scale it in a way that if the college had to say how we're going to fund it, we'll be seeking grants for a couple of years or trying to find a partner, and this is something we feel like we can get done and have that proof point, if you will, to get the sustainable funding we need to continue. So I wanted to start there. Where are the participants coming from? Again, I don't want to read what you have on your documents, but just point out that we already have an infrastructure called the Talent Hub. And there are details in your revised proposal that shows the 6 Promise Zone areas, and there are captains. I actually happen to be a co-chair of the Talent Hub with Stephanie Coleman at the Chamber, and we have been just not moving forward in the manner that we would like to, but we convene that group, we're partners, and we talk. We think that this would give us actually some meat on the bones to revive the group and get them actively participating in how do we develop a comprehensive recruitment strategy to get students into this program, or participants, I will say. And then we talked a little bit about the funnel. If you look at page 18, this is a model, just a model. So I just wanted to tell you, we're trying to give you an example of when you come into Ready to Reconnect and we do the right assessment, then from there we can determine what program you go into. So there's no perfect funnel that everybody kind of goes through, because some people are not going to be ready. If we get people in Ready to Reconnect that don't have a high set or a high school diploma, they're going to need to go to adult ed first. But there's training that can be done that may not be Nashville State training that they can still participate while they're getting their high set degree. So that funnel, we hope by the picture, will just kind of show you what we imagine can happen. There may be some people in Ready to Reconnect that will go to Belmont the next semester, and that's great. We just want them to be ready, prepared, have all their stuff together. The anticipated impact, again, Clifton will probably speak to this a little bit more. You will have been given a document that was just really meant to be a worksheet for how we were calculating how to price our programs. And so you'll see the number 30 for Ready to Reconnect, which we think is a good number to start with. Then you'll see, okay, what if we had at least 10 students? We can take more. So I just wanted you to know that that was more of a working document. So the number of students we can serve really is dependent on the number of partners that are willing to help us recruit and how many students we have. So I don't have a full-time faculty member that I'm just paying to do this. So we will be really looking to find the folks to help us. And if there's 10 or if there's 50 different Ready to Reconnects, we can make that happen. We just wanted to try to find a way to explain how we were going to price it out to you. So if you need more details around that, I'm happy to answer that. And then I want to talk a little bit about sustainability and changes in the budget from Nashville State, and I will give it to Clifton. He will probably speak more about the partners, but I want to give you a real example. There are so many employers right now ready to pay for training. They're there. We're working with them every day. And there's 2 ways you can do it. And one is just the all-call. There's a free class at Nashville State. You come. And that can work if you can get to Nashville State. And so many people can't. So we know by going into neighborhoods and working with people, we can get people in the class. which is why we don't want to start with the training. We want to start with Ready to Reconnect and not just walk in with training programs. We want them to have gone through a process and be assessed. But when it comes to continuing the work, I want to give you a real example of Vanderbilt University Medical Center. They are in dire need. And one need was medical assisting. And I think I did mention that, but they are paying for that training. We created a curriculum together. There are so many weeks of instruction, and they go into a clinical setting at Vanderbilt. They are paying their own people to go through the training. We've had our first graduation class. You'd be crying if you could hear the stories of people who've been working there 15 years that always wanted to be in some kind of patient care area, but couldn't figure out how they were going to work and go to school. Because of that success, we just started 2 weeks ago a whole new program for central sterile processing. That's the cleaning of the instruments before they go into the OR. And it is also with their own employees. They are paying $32.50 a student. That is much lower than the cost you're going to see for what we're saying as a class. So I just want you to know that there are industries and people and organizations that would be willing to pay. So it's $32.50 per student, and I can't remember if it's 10 or 12 in there, but if it's just 10, it is still lower than anything you're going to see on our price sheet, if you will, for what we're saying we're going to just pay for a class. So I wanted you to see the difference, and I do believe that people will pay, employers, I should say, for training that they know is good and that they have real people that are committed to finishing. Really quickly, I just want to go through our budget changes because we did go back and we talked a little bit more. We tried to remove some of the duplication in positions. We're still asking for funding for positions, and that is, just to be honest, we don't have the capacity right now today. I have 3 people in workforce. I have an executive director, a person over IT partnerships, and then like an office manager. So to do something of this scale, it's going to take people. I do think there's absolutely flexibility in the number of coordinators that we could hire. We thought we would do it by discipline. Our IT person is full. I mean, they're doing boot camps, they're doing all kinds of things. So we had directors in the first budget, and we went back and said, let's make them coordinators. And we have the 3 main areas that we wanted to start with. This is all something that could be changed. We could decide we're just going to do healthcare or any other variation. The IT person could be construction. So I did want to point that out, but that's where you get that from. We've got to have some kind of coordinator to help us track this grant, be accountable for the dollars, and also help make it happen. The student success advisor is that person that will work with students on career and academic planning, and they will go into the classrooms because one instructor can't do everything that we want to do in Ready to Reconnect, so we intend to send people in there. And then that social worker is going to be key of evaluating in a way that you wouldn't put an instructor in any kind of position to say, hey, what benefits are you on? So to have that professional person that can do that. The other thing, so you'll see a reduction in cost for our staff cost. And then the other reductions that you're going to see is in administrative costs. And again, we were thinking about, we have programs today we can offer that are already created that I don't need curriculum development money for. But there are other programs for which we're going to have to create if it's not already out there with other partners. And we reduced that cost because we thought we've got some that we can offer. We don't need as much there, or we'll have to find another way to fund it. For the program activities, I just wanted to remind you that that big first year number has that mobile classroom in it. That's why it's higher than the second year. And I think we had asked for $300,000. There are some mobile classrooms that actually have medical labs in them, and that they're not just a classroom. And so we've been trying to figure out how to price that. We don't have a good price on that yet, but that's why we put that number at $300,000. And I think that is it for me, Clifton, and I will turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. As Dr. Jackson stated, thank you, for the privilege of your time, to allow us to come in and present, to you and provide some clarifying comments, about the concerns or questions that you had. I think I'll start with this sustainability. As Dr. Jackson stated, there are a lot of corporations out there ready to invest in the program. We have already secured some funding for the training of the collective, which I'm really pleased with. We are also working with 2 other institutions that see a need for this, that wants to be a part of the collective, that will bring resources to the table as well. So we're already looking into ways to leverage the resources that you can make available, as well as many of the corporations that will benefit from this program are interested in figuring out how they can support the program, because when you consider the cost of turnover that they are experiencing, they cannot afford to lose resources in bringing people in that are not properly trained and only stay for a short while, and then they have to start all over with their recruitment process. So this creates a pipeline that they can draw from. So we feel confident that we'll be able to work with our corporations in the area and to be able to leverage these resources. At this point, I can't tell you if that would be 2 to 1 or what it would be, but I do know that we have a lot of interest. Also, now I'd like to just speak a little bit about whether or not this is aspirational. The Urban League has been serving this Middle Tennessee community for 54 years locally and 112 years nationally. Our workforce development programming is part of a national model that comes out of the National Urban League, and we tweak it for the nuances that works best for Middle Tennessee. So this is nothing new to us. We've been doing this for a while. The benefit of this program, though, allows us to create a collective and work with other organizations that are doing workforce development in some type of way or specialized way, and bring people to the table and get them trained on how to work together, so that we can serve or so that we can all scale for the number of people that need good paying jobs is so astronomical that no one organization can do it all by themselves, but collectively we can. And I think this is an opportunity to have a model that is different, that allows people to work and play towards their strengths, and then reward them for that. And so, as Dr. Jackson likes to say a lot, we're better together. And so I think we will certainly be better together in attacking the workforce problem that we have in our city. You also have in your packet some letters of support from different supporters that has expressed an interest in being a part of the collective, and we have tried to cast the net very wide, and we will continue to cast that net even wider as we start convening the collective together. So Dr. Jackson stated about the anticipated impact. As she stated on page 25, we have a metrics that will show the impact that this program will have in our community, and getting people not only upskilled but reskilled to be able to take advantage of the high demand industry jobs that are coming online. And then finally, I guess I should also kind of go over some of our changes in our revised budget as well. We reduced the Urban League staff costs by 24%. It was a change of $327,000 in that area. The overall cost was reduced, like I said, by 24%. The staff list was reviewed to ensure further alignment with Nashville State staff so that we did not have any duplications. And one of the things that we found is that we had some contract workers in this line item, and we moved them to the appropriate line item, which caused a reduction in that. In our another area where we made some changes was in the area of UNT's programs activities. In our sub-grant activities, where you'll see an increase there where we adjusted that line item for moving contract people that we had in the staffing area down to the contract area where it should have been. And then finally in our indirect costs, we looked at that. There was an 82% reduction in that. This was the largest change to the budget. As we looked at the costs, we did an audit by cost specifically to the program and not the overall organization, which typically is a standard of 10% cost rate. So those are the changes that we made in order to address the budgetary concerns that you had. So I'll stop there and answer any questions, because I think anything else I say is just a duplication of what Dr. Jackson has already stated.
Councilwoman Swahara. Sorry, not Swahara.
Thank you. Yes, it's Sepulveda, and there's always, everyone always has a hard time with it. And I'm like, I'm going to start saying it correctly.
Please do.
And see if we could say it in the Spanish real way of doing it. So that's my goal for this year. Sorry. Yeah, no R's, so it'll be easier for you. I had a quick question about the subgrant for partner organizations, the organizations that sign letters of support. They would be the ones that you would reach out to about okay.
Yes, correct.
So because of that, I'm going to have to abstain because one of those organizations is one that I work for.
Okay, were there other questions? I saw a few hands. Okay. Councilwoman Johnston?
This thing. I just want to make sure that what I'm looking at is the amended version. So the total new ask is for 7.8, correct? Before, remind me what it was before.
10 million.
10 million. So we've come down quite a bit.
We've come down quite a bit.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I was looking at the right thing. Thank you.
Mary Jo, I'm kind of in the same situation Sandra's in. I'm a board member of C&M, and it's one of the supporting organizations as well.
Well, I mean, I can't speak for Clifton. I think some of the letters are general support for being a part of the collective. You'd have to speak to, I haven't specifically, I don't work with the sub-grants, so I'll have to defer to him, because I think some were organizations that would help us develop a comprehensive strategy and send people to the Ready to Reconnect, not necessarily receive funds, but I wouldn't be able to tell you who is and who isn't, because that won't be a part of what I do. So Clifton would have.
And and we don't know that until we actually convene all the collectives to the table and find out what their strengths are and what they do bring to the table, or willing to bring to the table.
Because I think, and if I'm incorrect, please say, part of what I think you want to do with the sub-grants is there are people out there already doing some training that we want to connect to, and we want to make it where it is financially feasible for participants to take it, and they won't be charged. So, but again, I don't want to get into your business, but I don't think every letter.
I just want to double
support.
Yeah, if I can, I'll just double check with legal. So it seems like there are quite a few letters of support. If they are receiving funding, we would want these committee members to abstain. but we don't know if they're, oops, let me get your mic.
So when it comes to the ethical issues, I always have to give this statement that I represent the committee as a whole and not individual committee members. However, if they're sending letters of support in and they are eligible to receive subgrants, I think it's appropriate for the committee members to abstain. If they weren't eligible and you knew that, then they would be eligible to vote. But if they are eligible, it's proper to abstain.
Yeah, at this point, I do not know whether or not they're eligible.
Okay, does that help? So we've got 2 abstentions at this point. Okay, Councilwoman Johnston, let me get your mic.
You too? I have to abstain. Lucky for y'all. I'm just a little, so from these sub-grants, do we have any type of concern, and I'm not looking at you guys, I'm looking at you guys. Do we have any type of concern since we're allocating to them and then they're allocating from there? Or does the committee have any concern about how these organizations are chosen and all that? Or are we okay with giving them the latitude to make these choices to, I mean, basically as a pass-through agency, really, because we've been really pretty particular, which I like, about who gets this money and why.
We have had subcontracts, though, with between CARES Act and ARP funds that the committee has not necessarily been involved in the selections of. So we've had examples where somebody has been here and said, these are the organizations we're going to subcontract with, and we've known. We've also had, predominantly in our rent distribution, we had about 40 organizations, and we didn't have that identified ahead of time. So there is precedence for the subcontract.
Well, but with the rent, that we were subcontracting with folks in order to get the rent into people's hands, and we were utilizing their sort of sphere of influence. So it's a little bit different than actually allocating to an organization that's going to use their funds themselves in order to do something, you know what I mean? It stays in their organization and not just, again, another pass-through. So are these the only people that you, or only organizations that you're looking at to partner with, or are there more? Were these just a subset of, there are more?
Yes.
Yes, there are more. No, we're not going to limit ourselves to the possibility and all of other organizations that would like to be a part of the collective. Now, once they become part of the collective and they're trained on how to work together, we will have a memorandum of understanding of how to do business, and then they will have to give us a matrix and a budget for what they're proposing so that we can monitor that they're doing what they're saying they're going to do, because we recognize we got to give a report back to you for them to be accountable for the resources.
Right. What is your process of getting the word out that, hey, we're assuming that you get funded, hey, we're doing this? Would you, how are you reaching out to the community for that? And are they all Davidson County organizations, or are they Middle
all
Tennessee?
Davidson County organizations, okay. And we started with the Promise Zone communities and working with the Promise Zone's captains. We're going to work with the Talent Hub, as well, for all the organizations that they have put together. So we will start to cast the net out from there. Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm not questioning your ability. I'm a little bit of a control freak in all aspects of my life, but with this especially. So I just want to make sure that everybody has an equal opportunity to participate, but that also that we are, that they know that we have an expectation, not just you, and that the taxpayers have an expectation of a return on investment. So I just wanted to communicate that. And not concern, but I don't know what another word for concern is that's less than anyway.
Thought. It's just a
very thoughtful.
It's a thought.
Yeah.
Well, and I want to say, just because I'm a pretty transparent person, if you know me, you'll see the date for your revision. We were asking for letters for September, and so after that point, we didn't continue to ask. We would have gotten more. Right. So it was just a matter of wanting to have a revision to you with the letters we had in hand at that time. So there are plenty of other partners that we think would be supportive.
Councilwoman Gamble, and then I'll come back to you, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for the work that you do in the community. I would like to hear a little bit more about the question where are the participants coming from? Because I think that's very important. And you outlined in the answer that you'll be partnering with MDHA and working with residents, over 30,000 residents there, and you anticipate a big chunk of the participants coming from that segment. And also, if you could speak to serving the 1,500 people, if that's over the 2-year period, if you always speak a little bit to that. Thank you.
Yeah, so we've already had conversation with Dr. White over at MDHA, and he is making his staff available to work with us as a part of the collective so that we have access, to the 30,000 residents, that he serves. MDHA also kind of coordinates, the Promise Zone efforts. So with all of and the Urban League is one of the Promise Zone captains, with Edge Hill, Connection Americas, Woodbine, Martha O'Brien, and so we have also reached out to them, and they will help us, reach out to their constituents, that they serve, so that we're making sure, that everyone is getting an opportunity to be a part in all of this workforce equity, collective.
And I will say, because I've been co-chairing the Talent Hub, we talk about real people in real neighborhoods, and the folks that are coming in to get supports for services and are trying to figure out, how do I get out of this onto a better pathway? So the infrastructure for the Talent Hub and working with the Promise Zones is there. It's just a matter of convening the partners, talking to them about what they're already doing. We don't want to have to recreate anything if they're already trying to get people to Nashville State or to an education program. I think this becomes a way for them to get increased access for more people. Dr. White, we have a meeting in another week or so. There's actually 2 pieces of what we're trying to do. There's a federal program called Good Neighbors that he would like for Nashville State to be partners with, which would feed into, after going through that program, Ready to Reconnect. But as he said, the bigger issue is we have, you have mixed houses, you have folks that are getting benefits that he has access to, and his door is wide open to partner with us. We just are still figuring out exactly, where do you start with that? Do you start in a particular area? And that's the one thing I just keep wanting to stress. We could start in 5 instead of just picking 1 if we have the funding to go.
And that 1,500 is over a 2-year period, and we think that is a very conservative number.
Absolutely.
Are there other questions? I'm going to double check from legal. Usually when we have an abstention, then they can't be part of the discussion either. So I just want to double check. I'm learning. That was part of my question. There you go. Oh, I'm sorry, Alex.
Yeah, once you've stated for the record that you're abstaining, you should stay out of deliberations or the vote. I know that we've been a little bit loose in that in the past, but it's probably best practice to stay by.
And I'm offering, I do think if we need to make a list of who we know would be more of a partner than just a supporter, if that would be helpful.
So I think that's appropriate. I would love to see that, and probably the committee would like that as well. I don't think that's, and I don't know if we were planning to vote on this. I'm ready to, I think. I would like that follow-up information as you get that, but I don't want to hold up a vote over that. So understanding we'll get that list of organizations, I would move approval, except for you folks that can't talk.
I have a motion for approval. Is there a second? Any other questions, conversations? Jose, I think you're abstaining, but I'm going to give you a mic for a moment.
Okay.
You're abstaining on this vote, correct?
I don't know. I think I need to get some counsel on that. While I'm not an employee of one of the, I'm closely affiliated still with one of them, and so I think
you've abstained in anything with Connection, correct?
I have out of excessive, and so I think I will. And so if that's what we're going to go on, then let's just say that I will, and then I won't. share my comments.
Okay. It's probably our safest bet. Representative Love, let me get your mic.
Thank you, and I would like to add that I believe that as we have gone through several years of trying to get things back to some level of normalcy, one of the things that I've always appreciated about recovery dollars is that they're designed to get us to a place we can recover. I know the work we're talking about is needed to get people back into a place where they can sustain themselves. And so I just wanted to thank you for the work, and that, I ran as fast as I could from my class at Fisk to get over here to take this vote. Thank you.
I think we're glad considering all the abstentions. Right, Mike. Councilman Sepulveda?
Just a general question to the committee, not specifically about this. We had said that we were going to hear all the proposals and then go and vote and figure out what we wanted to prioritize. I don't know if that's still the plan, or if this was one of the prioritized items I did miss last meeting. So if that discussion was had, I missed it. Just wanted to get clarification.
So from my perspective, one of the things that we've done is laid out the agenda, considering who's going to be heard on the agenda, the ones that we eliminated from last meeting, so that you can then see exactly what the dollars amount were attached to each request. Most of those requests you have had some introduction to, at least the very large dollars. There are some at the in the December meeting that you haven't heard yet. Those are by far the smaller dollars. So that was intended to give you the ability to know how you wanted to vote each time. If that, we can start voting so that we're not waiting. You can see what's coming down the pike. We won't do this first up. We run out of money, we don't have any left. So you can see what's on the map. So the intention was to take votes from here on out, but at the will of the committee.
I appreciate Council Lady Sepulveda bringing that up. I think I would prefer to vote on it just because we haven't really done a whole lot with workforce development. In fact, I don't know that we've done anything with workforce development. And I think that, when you start talking about curing something, giving someone the ability to take, that's huge. It's not a handout, it's a hand up. So I would renew, I understand what you're saying, but I would renew my motion for approval based off of what I think is a great program, and thank you so much for going back and really revising and tightening up those numbers. And it was a huge adjustment too, and I really appreciate that because we want to make these dollars stretch as much as we can, but again, renewed motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any other questions, conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
2 hands. Are you voting in favor? Okay, so I have 3 in favor, against, I have 1 opposed, and 3 abstentions. So the recommendation for $7,890,153 for workforce development funded to Urban League in partnership with Nashville State Community College and others to come. You approve.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you. Clifton, Dr. Jackson, if you or anybody from your team needs a parking pass, if you're in the building, I don't know, are you in the building for a parking pass?
Oh, I got one.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you all. All right, next up, Fabian. This is participatory budgeting. Again, another item that we did hear, a preliminary, I'll say, presentation. You have a PowerPoint, well, Fabian has a PowerPoint he's going to share with us. I did send it to you all. I even have some printouts because we weren't sure about our technology, but we've got it going. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Fabian.
Thank you, Mary Jo. Hi, everybody. Thank you for your service. I know this is a high calling, so I appreciate all of you giving up your time to decide how to take advantage of this federal funding. PB has now over 2 years, and we really couldn't talk about proposing this ARP-funded PB without talking about the prior experiences. The first year was, like Kia Jarmon used to say, it was like flying the plane where we were building it. It was a brand new experience, but we managed to do it very well. We learned a lot from it. We had a postmortem with people that participated, and we folded the recommendations into the second cycle. One of the things that we learned on the first cycle is that we needed to do outreach using regular mail, and so with the help of the council, that was included on the funding for the second cycle, and households received a postcard telling them about it. And the third cycle, which we're proposing now, is going to be, we had asked for $20 million, but we scaled it back to $10 million. And if it is approved by you all and the council, then we are hoping to be able to start around January. So I have some testimonials and videos that I want to show. This one is one that we did in trying to explain using video. Good. And it was created by Metro Arts with the help of a local artist in North Nashville. And what we're trying to do always is to explain this. And by the time I'm done explaining this process to you, you'll go like, oh, I get it now. But if I don't do this, then it's so counterintuitive that people tend to miss it. So I apologize that I walk you through all this, but it's the only way for me to make sure that we are communicating. So go ahead. I love it when we get the arts involved. I think they did pretty good. I have then three videos of testimonials from people that participated through the process. And again, I think it will humanize it and help. So if you don't mind showing the next ones. These were people that were part of the steering committee of the second cycle.
It gives us control over that $2 million so that we can see things in the neighborhood that are not being done, that we can get done.
I think some people think that this should be, why is this a necessary step?
Right.
And the necessary step is because while you have things already planned with your council person, this gives the neighborhoods the opportunity to say, these are some things that, okay, keep going, council, but these are some other things we want to have done. Mm-hmm. And we have at least $2 million.
It gives the everybody a voice.
Right.
Everything might not get done the way you want it done, but at least you have an opportunity to say what you want it done. And then when you get to vote, then your voice is being heard more in that direction.
I think the participatory budget helps to cultivate relationships between the government and the constituents, because oftentimes we're left out of the decision-making process. The funds, anytime you put the money on the table and you say, hey, people, you all decide what we want to do. I think that builds trust, and it's a lot of transparency, and people are they feel more valued when you're asking for their opinion, and they're part of the process. We get to choose how we want to invest in our community rather than somebody coming in and, dictating this is what we're going to do, and a lot of those things that the majority wish they were done doesn't get done. But this is an opportunity where the community says, this is what we want to see done, and because we've been given that sovereignty, we're able to do that.
And there is one more. These were done for the idea collection period to encourage people to submit ideas.
If you have interfaced with the person on INDOT or the person on WEGO or the person on education, then you have you build a relationship. And even though everything that you might have asked for in this particular situation didn't get addressed, they might come and tell you, hey, this is coming up. You have established a relationship with the entity that basically has the control over whether or not something can happen or not happen. So it also builds rapport, as you say, trust and connectivity, as you say, with the different entities in the governance of our city, so that it's not just a them and a us, it's now a we.
All right, so all the people that work, the volunteer during the process, they're volunteers, they're community members that have a commitment to improving their own neck of the woods, and they step in to lead the process. So how do they do it? I want to show you the timeline next. And this is really, on a nutshell, the way it works. So the first thing that happens is we put together a steering committee. And the steering committee, usually we ask the local council member to recommend people to be on the steering committee. We are going to do the same with the council this time. We expect to have a 35-member steering committee, and we'll ask each one of the council members to recommend a steering committee member, but also an alternate, because for whatever reason, people sometimes they drop out and they end up not being able to fulfill their commitment. The steering committee is in charge of the process from beginning to end, and that can take at least a year and maybe a year and a half, depending how long it takes to build the things that they want to see happen. The first thing that they will do is come up with the bylaws of the process, the guidelines. The guidelines, I'm going to talk about it a little bit later, but they are the most important part, because it sets the tone for how the whole process will work. And they have to make decisions about project eligibility, process, how the voting will happen, schedules, etc. Once the guideline is set up, then everybody knows what the process is going to be about. So the next step is the one I like the most, is the idea collection. We start going around telling people, tell us your ideas. It doesn't matter what, just tell us your ideas. And we collect ideas online, we collect ideas in person. We try to engage with the community in any way we can to get as many ideas as possible. Then we put together another group. These are called budget delegates. And the budget delegates' main job is to put together the ballot. And the budget delegates may only work within the guardrails of the ideas that were submitted. They cannot put their own ideas into the process. They have to use the ideas that the community submitted. So they work through a couple of months, going through all the ideas with the metro departments, checking budgeting issues. Is this item that people want us to do already being funded through another department? Is this something that the state is doing? Is this legal? Can we do this? And so once they go through all this process, verifying everything, they put together a ballot. And then when that is done, then we ask people to vote. We are right now going through the vote phase of the 2022 cycle, and people are going to be voting for the whole month. Once the vote is done, then the results are given back to the steering committee, who, using the guidelines, decides what items are going to get funded. And then it comes back to me, and my job is to make sure we build everything expeditiously. And so I have tried to do that. I think if we want this to be successful, people need to see the results of their labor. And so the sooner I can build a playground or the landscaping or whatever it is that they ask, the more success the next cycle will have. And so this is the timeline so far. Then I'll go into more detail on the next slides. This map here shows you what were the boundaries for Bordeaux and North Nashville participatory budgeting. The dark yellow area is the map that we use. We didn't want to make up a map, so we used the Bordeaux Chamber of Commerce map and the Opportunity Zone map, and we combined them to make this map. In this map, only the people that live within this area could participate, could submit ideas, could be a budget delegate or a steering committee or both. This is the sovereignty of this process only pertains to the people that reside within that community. And anybody that was 14 years old or older could participate. So if you tell me you live in that yellow area and you're 14 years old or older, you can participate. We had on the first cycle a high schooler that was on the steering committee. So we want to see diversity of ages and diversity of sexes. I mean, we really want to see a comprehensive group of people, because that will help with the process and the outcome. So, this budget, this process here, it was for $2 million, right? So I'll talk some more about it later, but when you look at that yellow area, there was only $2 million to be spent on that area. So as votes were collected, we will look at the items that receive more votes, up to $2 million. And we got to those $2 million, that was it. So basically, you look at the item that got more votes, and then you keep tallying the number until you get to $2 million, and that's how you know if 5 items will get funded, or 15 items will get funded, or just one. If there is an item for $15 million and it gets like a gazillion votes, then maybe you just get one item funded. So it is all based on the will of the people on how they vote. Now, the next slide is more related to ARP funding. With ARP, as you know, I don't have to tell you this, it's required that you use the money with the more vulnerable part of the city. And vulnerability, it is an important requirement to decide, who's going to get what. So we did some research and found out the Social Vulnerability Index by the CDC was the best way to measure the most vulnerable part of the city. And so in this map, you can see the darker bluer areas are the parts that are more vulnerable in the city. Now, we wanted to get everybody involved, but we also wanted to meet the federal guidelines of the ARP funding, which is something Councilmember Johnston brought up to my attention, and it was important that we follow that. Just like on the $2 million CSP funded process, we have to follow up on the guidelines for the CSP. On this one, we have to follow up on the guidelines of the ARP funding. So we have to make sure that we allocate the money to the places that are more vulnerable. So what we are proposing is to use the same system we use on Bordeaux and use $4 million for the darker blue area, $2.8 million for the next area, $1.5 million for the next, and $1 million for the next. So it's a decreasing number, and there is a balance because there is going to be a 6% on for us to run the program, and I can explain that. Yes. The total that we are asking, $10 million, which is a baseline for us. I mean, we can do it better with more money, but it's on the highest vulnerability area is $4 million. Then it's 2.8 millions, 1.5 millions, and then 1 million. And like I say, it decreases so you can meet the guidelines of the ARP funding. Yes, Council. Yes, Representative Love.
Darker blue area. 4 million is a darker blue area, and the next amount is what and what area?
2.8 on the next.
And is that to
0.5 to 0.75 vulnerability. Then 0.25 to 0.5 vulnerability is 1.5 millions. And from 0 vulnerability to 0.25 is 1 million.
Okay, and the 0.75 to 1 is the 4 million, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Now, all this is what we propose, but it is very important that you know that we want to hear from you. I mean, if you want us to adjust these numbers, or if you want to adjust the guidelines, I mean, you are on the driving seat in telling us how to adjust this program to meet, your vision. But to meet ARP, there has to be a gradient, or we won't be meeting the requirement that we use more money for areas that are more vulnerable. And that takes me to the next slide.
Councilmember Sepulveda has a question.
Oh, Councilmember Sepulveda, sorry.
Sorry, quick question, because we were on the map. It's broken down into 35 and into the district lines, or is there another way you're breaking, like you're deciding the boundaries?
Yeah, no, this is not related to council districts at all.
You just want 35 on the steering committee.
No, oh, I see your question. No, the steering committee, I will ask each one of you to submit a steering committee member. So there will be an overlap between the vulnerability and the council districts. But I think it's important that each one of you has an opportunity to recommend somebody that speaks for your district.
Kind of foundational questions. Unless I misheard them, the amounts don't add up to 10. Are they supposed to add up to 10?
No, there is also a 6% cost to run the program, and that is because we have to include the cost of mailers and outreach in the process. So we had to include some cost to that. Yeah, it does. It's a 6% additional cost that is included on the process.
Okay, and then the other question, obviously would welcome the perspectives of our council members, but when I look at this map and we do it by these colors, you're talking about some of the dark blue being in very different parts of the city, same with some of the other colors. And so the question is there really a connectivity based on this color of people that would be getting together to come up with something that really would benefit all of them in a community or a neighborhood? It seems to me like it's really dispersed the way the colors break out.
Yeah, I was going to explain it later on the presentation, but just like the council members will recommend one steering committee member for each district, they are also going to recommend two budget delegates for each district. And as the budget delegates work on the ballots, they are going to be using the ideas collected from the community and put together a ballot of 35 items for people to vote. And there will be a ballot item likely on each council district. Again, I'm looking forward to your feedback on that. But that doesn't mean that each district will get its item funded. It will depend on the vote of the people. So on the blue area, people will vote, and up to $4 million, they will get funded. On the yellow areas, people will vote, but up to $1 million, they'll get funded. On the lighter blue area, it will be, it all will match depending on the amount of money funded. So there will be items funded all over the city. It will just depend on how many votes they got. And each resident will get to vote for up to 5 items. So maybe Councilmember Johnston votes for something that is close to her house that she really cares, but then she also wants to vote on something on Councilmember Sepulveda's district because it has a high social vulnerability index and she wants to support another item. Yes, Councilmember.
So anybody can vote, right? Anybody in the county can vote for any of these 35 projects.
Anybody over 14.
Okay, over 14. Okay, I'm wondering if that maybe is because I think what worked really well with the Bordeaux was the fact that it was just Bordeaux, right? And it was really, I don't have any business going and voting about something in Bordeaux. I don't live there. I don't have anything to do with that. That would be weird. And I can't imagine everybody else in the county saying like, oh, sure. So I'm wondering if and I'm just talking, I want it to be successful, but I don't want people that don't have anything to do with it vote. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how they would care about something happening way over on the other side of the county. Maybe they're very lovely and altruistic, but maybe not. So you know, most people care about their neighborhoods. They're going to vote for their neighborhood. I'm wondering if we do it more like chunks, kind of like you did the Bordeaux area, and it was very submersive. That whole community really came together, and I mean, from the looks of it, had some really cool ideas, and it was really successful because everybody was invested in that particular area. Would it be better to divide these projects up, and maybe you say these, like the chunks of blue? I mean, because I get it, you got to do the vulnerability thing. Am I making sense?
Yeah, but actually, the data, what I can share with you is that it didn't work that way. People in Bordeaux and Nashville voted for things that were not close to their homes.
Okay.
People actually, they drive around the city, they see a traffic light that they go, man, I'm tired of that traffic light. And it may be like 5 miles from their house or 10 miles from their house. And so, and people have an empathy or have an experience of the city as a whole. And it really, and in my experience of learning about other cities, that's the way they do it. They actually do run citywide processes.
Okay. Councilman Campbell.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak to that because the last participatory budgeting with the $2 million was Bordeaux and some of Whites Creek area, so it touched my district as well. And there were projects submitted for both Bordeaux and Whites Creek area, but the projects that were centralized in Bordeaux got more support because they felt they were more needed. So there was support for projects outside of the immediate community or projects outside of the community, just because as people were engaged and listening to the ideas and listening to the problems, they felt those things needed priority. But to the point about the different areas, so if every area in blue submits ideas, it's up to those communities to vote, because that's what makes the difference.
Saying everybody's voting on everything. That's why I'm saying, like, if you have people that live down in South Nashville, like me and Sandra do, what do we know? I mean, she may go up there, but I don't know anything about Bordeaux or Whites Creek. So Bordeaux and Whites Creek, even though they're not, there's still people travel in and through there, right? Where we necessarily don't. So I'm not saying have it be like just Creve Hall or, you know, just hey, whatever. The larger areas, but more of like, and I don't want to say quadrant, but, you know, most people sort of live and work or live, you know, and go to businesses and restaurants in this little area. They're not, going across the county.
Right. I mean, I see your point about separating it, but to Fabian's point, it has been done this way and been successful this way, and other people will vote on projects or in support of projects that aren't necessarily in their neighborhood. And I think that kind of helps, because it kind of, instead of having people separated by neighborhoods and silos, it kind of brings the communities together to understand each other and understand the problem. So I understand your concern about having other people influence what happens in a neighborhood that's not their own.
Or just not caring.
Or just not caring,
because it's just not relevant.
Right, but then that depends on the engagement of all the communities, because even though you have other people voting on projects not necessarily in their community, you still need a strong presence of participation from the residents in those communities that have those ideas.
Councilman Sepulveda?
Yes. I don't know, Fabiana, if you want to go through the process specifically, because you said you were going to get to it, because I have similar concerns to Councilmember Johnson, and I don't know if I'm missing something, and maybe with you explaining it, because I do have several thoughts in the similar line, but I want to make sure I have it correct.
Okay. How about it if I continue and then you guys tell me at the end if I miss anything? I try to imagine every question you guys will ask me, but I clearly failed, so. So this is something that I added because of a comment Councilmember Johnston did last time. And I think it's extremely important that you know that you guys help us design the guidelines. The guidelines are made by the steering committee, but they are also made based on what the federal, state, and city laws require. And finally, it is also based on what your vision it is for the program. So let's say you wanted the money to be spent, like Councilmember Johnson said last time, you want the money to be spent only on capital improvement projects. So this is where you will put it on the guidelines. You will say, this is the only thing that the money can be spent on. Or let's say you wanted to say money can be used only on capital improvement and also on workforce development. So then you will put on the guidelines. And so then you will tweak the mission statement for the process, and then that will set the guardrails for the steering committee as they fine-tune the guidelines later. So the guidelines are like the bylaws for the process, and it is important that we get clear guidelines to get started. Everything that is on the guidelines is what is going to be followed, and what I'm going to follow, and what the staff is going to follow, and what the budget delegates and everybody is going to follow. So these are some slides for this cycle. The idea collection, what we did is, based on what we learned last year, we sent a postcard to 18,500 households in Bordeaux and North Nashville, asking them to submit ideas. We had meetings specially tailored with departments to come and talk about different things like transportation or NDOT or whatever, because we wanted them to be able to learn to fine-tune their idea suggestions. So the idea collection is a very important part, and as we work on the idea collection for the ARP funding, we also want to have a lot of engagement, and that's why the cost of that she was asking me about, that's percentage, is part of it is engagement. Like sending a letter to all the 400,000 households in Nashville, we estimate that to be about $300,000. So it's going to be expensive, but not everybody has access to the internet. And so if we want them to be able to participate, we gotta be able to spend some money doing that. Next slide is just pictures of some of the activities. A lot of this is community engagement. And these are pictures of during the whole process this year. Some of the steering committee putting the guidelines together, some of the idea collection, and to the right are pictures of the budget delegates at work putting the ballot together. What I'm going to show next is the ballot for 2021, and then the next one is the ballot for 2022. The ballot for 2023 will be different because it will also have the SBA code for that particular place. So in this case, item number 1, if it's on one of the dark blue areas, it will have SBI reflecting that vulnerability. So people, as they vote on all the 35 items, will be able to know the location, the description, the cost, and how vulnerable is that area that they are potentially voting for. The ballots are, people can vote on the ballots by paper, or they can, or they can vote online. We'd rather people vote online. Nashville has been a great partner for us. It works really good. People can go online, enter their name and address, and vote. And then we get the results really fast. But we know that some people really like to vote on a paper ballot. So we have this year find that the libraries are our best partner, and they allow us to put ballot boxes on their facilities, and people can go and vote during the period of time. And that's how we collect paper ballots from people. They can also mail in a ballot, and we have a P.O. box here in the mayor's office where we collect letters that people send us with their vote. Voting, we also try to engage with the residents. We do a vote expo. It just happens this last Sunday. On the left are pictures of the Vote Expo. We also send a postcard to all the residents. That's what you see on the middle. At the bottom, you see some of the news media talking about the participatory budgeting, Vote Expo, and we also use social media. Engagement, like I said, is key. I mean, we have to really get through that threshold of getting people's attention so they participate. There is also an inertia. People have a hard time believing when we tell them that they decide how to spend this money, because usually they feel that they are not being asked. So when we tell them, it takes some time to walk them through the process. The next is the results, some pictures of the 2021 process. And I want to call your attention to the picture on the right. That's our volunteers counting the ballots. We had 12 volunteers that tally all the votes and collected the information of who voted, and we try to be very transparent during the whole process, because what we don't want is to anybody question the results and feel that we had somehow not done what we set out to do. The 2021 results are, items are getting built. The speed bumps are complete. Air conditioner in Lewis Center was completed. Landscaping in Harman Park. Bus stations were completed. The things that are not completed yet are items that got delayed because of supply chain issues, playgrounds and the bathroom on Hartman Park. So if you show the next slide, as you can see, the diversity of things are very interesting. People came up with very diverse items on 2021, and I just am very proud of them.
I'm getting a lot of text messages about going off, so I just want to make sure I alert somebody to make sure that
I have OEM alerts. I haven't gotten a tornado, just
I just
thunderstorm.
getting all the Belmont ones, and my wife and just tornado take cover. Where are you? But so I apologize if it's overreaction, but you know, I'd rather be
Looks like
cautious.
it's going a little south of here. I've been trying to follow it.
Okay, I just wanted to alert somebody's monitoring.
No, that's
all right.
important. I've been watching the OEM ones.
Okay.
I still have thunderstorm, but,
Gracias, Jose.
Sorry.
No, it's good.
and I've been watching the window.
It's up to you. I mean, I can.
Yes.
This is my last slide anyway, and it's just showing people happy to see the results of their democratic process becoming a reality. On the left are some traffic calming, on the right is some bus shelters. The middle is the design of the playground equipment that they chose. Councilmember Johnston?
I was going to let you finish. I was just trying
There
to
is one more.
Okay, go ahead. Just finish. Sorry.
PB, it's not about big ticket items like what you see on the right. It's not about like big, flashy, expensive, massive infrastructure. That is really for the Metro Council members to decide. The Metro Council makes decisions about big ticket items, long-term plans. PB is more about the small things, things that somehow fell through the cracks that matter to people, and things like a traffic crosswalk, like a bike lane, like a bus shelter, like a crosswalk, like a playground. Those are the things that matter to people sometimes, and for them to have an opportunity to make decisions about it, it just helps them build a better city for them and their community. So that's the thing. I hope I did a good job explaining to you. PB can be counterintuitive. At the end of the day, it's just people making decisions about how to improve their community directly.
All right, we'll open up for questions. Go ahead, Councilwoman Johnston.
Thank you. So I appreciate my first concern when you first came a couple months ago was making sure you can put things out to the community, but they don't necessarily understand the federal guidelines, and it's super important that we fall within that so that we're going to have some fail safes as far as that kind of stuff. So I appreciate you building that in. And I love the idea of communities being able to come out and really take control of how some dollars are spent. I think, there's a disconnect between people and their government, and I think this is a really great way to bridge that gap. There's a lot of positives that come out of it. What I'm concerned about is maybe the logistics of how we're handling it, because I think when we look at a 526 square mile county, that's overwhelming, and there's a lot of communities, that have nothing to do with each other that I think maybe would be unfair. I think I do have a concern about possibility of duplication of votes, because there's different ways to do it. You can go online, you can mail it in, you can do whatever. So I would want to look at that to make sure that you have a specific whatever attached to you, but let me keep going. So, and also, if you're looking at 35 projects, holy night, like that is overwhelming, even for us or whoever, when we're looking at things like this. This isn't even 35 things, but to look through there, if somebody said, okay, it's your choice, Johnston, you get to pick, I would go, oh my gosh, because that's overwhelming to sort of narrow that many things down to what you would, how you would prioritize those things. So I really think we need to look more at specific areas where you can focus dollars and have community groups that are sort of related, even if, and I know it's not council districts, but there's some overlap between my district and Robert Swope's district and Councilor Sepulveda and Councilman Nash. We're sort of in that little area. There's the Antioch cluster that is sort of, everybody there sort of understands that community. We understand South Nashville. She understands North Nashville and the people that are up there. I just think it's going to be a lot easier, because what I don't want to happen is like our survey, even though that went out to the entire county, there's those priorities. There was not a whole lot of participation when you look at how many people live in the county, but the vast majority of that participation came from 37211. That's one of my major zip codes, so I'm not complaining about that, but there was so many voices that didn't participate, so those things got priority because those were the people that were participating, you know what I mean? So I hope I'm communicating this right. Because I want this to work, but I just think maybe this is too big of a scale. I'd like to have multiple smaller things that people can really identify with. So that you get true participation. Because, like my neighborhood is not necessarily going to care what the people in Jennifer's neighborhood want,
Yeah, the way it works is that we have seen neighborhood leaders that will go and advocate for items that are important to them. So what you're going to see is, because we are asking the community to put forward the items that are more meaningful to people, that these 35 ballot items will be meaningful to people all over the county. And so then you are going to find people in the different communities that are going to call their neighbors and say, you really need to vote for this thing because it matters, because it's something we want for a long time. And I can give you many examples, and the council member Campbell can tell you too, that people just go and advocate for these items, and they become the captains or the advocates for participation. It's just that you see something that they came up with, is something that matters to them, that they asked to include on the ballot. And so then they want to see this funded, and they come forward and they make it happen. And because the guardrails exist, and you will have at least $4 million for the darker blue area, so items that are located within those areas are going to be more likely to get funded. And then the areas that are less vulnerable will have less funding, but they will still have an opportunity to get funded. So then everybody will be encouraged to try to come out and vote so they can see items in their neighborhood funded as well.
Councilman Sepulveda?
Thank you. So I had similar concerns just based off of the history of my district, right? It's very hard getting people to participate in community events as it is. I've had zoning meetings where I meet outside on the property because people could just walk, and that's the biggest participation I'm able to get out of them because I make it so convenient to them. I also have, it's probably the most diverse district in the county, which means that I have several people who don't speak the language, that are afraid to participate sometimes, right? And so I have to make sure that everything is translated. So I would want to make sure that the ballots are translated.
Yes, yeah, it's part of the budget to do translation.
So, and that's great, but I agree. I think that we need if it's countywide, my area is gonna have a heavier lift trying to advocate for the needs sometimes. As an example, we were one of the only districts that didn't have a library, community center, or a park. I had to lobby several of my colleagues to include the park in the form that we have to fill out for the mayor's office to look at projects that we want funded. So I had several of my colleagues have that as one of their items that they wanted funded. And then there was also lobbying the mayor's office to make sure it gets funded, right? And it was a whole process. So I have few key active people in my area, but I imagine with other areas who have historically participated for a very long time, it's an easier lift for them. So I'm just trying to think of all of the barriers that we would have to overcome to try and get us in an equitable position, right? Like one of the suggestions I would have, right, you had the voting, what was it called? The voting events.
Expo.
Voting expo, right? So a form, if that was gonna happen, I would ask that we have them in some of the markets in Southeast, right? And I'm sure you would be open to that. That would help getting the word out to some of the minority communities. So I would want to make sure that that was included.
Can I say something before? Yes. I don't want to forget any of your question. The first thing is, remember that a darker blue area may get something funded with less votes than in a yellow area. Because on a darker blue area, there is $4 million, and until that money is allocated, everything gets funded until you get to $4 million on the darker blue area. On the yellow area, the threshold is 1 million. So an item that gets, 1,000 votes in the yellow area may not get funded, but an item that gets 500 votes on the blue area may get funded, because it's really about counting the votes and prioritizing until you get to the $4 million on one or the $1 million on the other.
So the blue area would have the priority first, and
yes, the blue area will get $4 million, like I said in the beginning. Yeah. And then the next area will get 2.5, and the next area will get 2.8, and 1.5. And it's all about the vulnerability. There has to be $4 million spent on the dark blue area to meet the ARP requirements.
Would there be a possibility of looking at smaller quadrants like Councilmember Johnston was suggesting, right? Like regions, right? The South region, Southeast region, taking into account some of these social vulnerability maps. I know it's difficult. Like looking at the map, it's all over the place, right? And so I don't know if there's a possibility of formulating it that way, because I look at Nolensville Road, which you could tell which one's Nolensville Road, and all along Nolensville Road is dark blue, and then the second shade of dark blue. I'm having a hard time picturing it, and I didn't go through the process like Councilmember Gamble and Toombs and some of the others went through.
It works. It really works.
I guess those were my questions.
No, I mean, I respect your concern, but having done it already twice, it works. People will actually come forward and participate and engage, and you have people that are going, yes, council member. Sorry.
Thank you. I just wanted to add, it does work, but it does take everyone being involved. As a council member, I was making sure that I was communicating with my community through newsletters and through meetings, to make sure that they were involved and engaged in the process. So it does take a multi-pronged approach. It works, but it's going to take the council member, community leaders, and others making sure that the community is engaged and involved in the process.
And can I say one more thing? I already started talking to nonprofits around the city because I want to make sure that the disability community is involved, LGBT community is involved, African Americans, Latinos, Kurdish, all communities. I mean, any system is as weak as the weakest link, and if we don't communicate truly with each one of the minority communities in the city, then we are not going to be able to get true representation. So my plan was to engage and partner with nonprofits to help us with outreach. And I've been already talking to them. I talked to Center for Nonprofit Management and many agencies to ask them to put us on their newsletters and to invite me to come and speak. I know this is going to be high calling, but I'm ready for it. I've been ready now for months. I think it's going to be working, and people are going to be very proud that they did this.
One more question before I make a motion. When would this, after approval from the council, I know that you're in the process now of the 2022 participatory budgeting, when would this process begin, ideally?
I think, I don't remember if this requires 3 readings or just a resolution, but I was assuming that we'll be doing it starting in January. And then the moment you guys approve it, I'm going to start the idea collection at the same time that we work on the guidelines and the steering committee. So I want to give this idea collection more time to get people to submit ideas citywide and work with all the different minority groups to get as many diverse ideas as possible.
And you'll do that on the front end before actually opening it up, the participatory budgeting process?
Yeah, I think probably January will be the time to start, but you know, the real important thing, and this is kind of funny, when the guidelines that I use, I recycle them from Vallejo, California, which is the first city that did it in the U.S. And I did a lot of tweaking. I had a review by finance and legal, making sure that it met all our guidelines. I gave it to the steering committee thinking, oh, they'll do it in a couple of weeks. It took them 3 months to come up with guidelines that they were confident with. And so people are so invested, and they own the process so much that they're going to really go through it to come up with a set of guidelines that really reflects what their vision of the city is, you know, what they want to achieve with this thing. So I want to get them started as soon as possible because I know that'll take some time to come up with guidelines. And we cannot start the actual process of the budget delegates until the guidelines are set.
I'd like to make a motion to move to approve the request for the participatory budgeting countywide program.
I'm going to ask for a second, and then I know we still have some questions, and so is there a second? Second. Questions? I know we have some.
So I don't want to vote against this, but I'm going to, just because I think that 526 square miles and 35 projects and these, you know, high priority zones that are scattered all over the county with no connect at all is diluted. It's too diluted to even get, I think, to Council Lady Gamble's point, part of the reason that it worked was because it was so centralized in that area. So you had Council Lady Toombs and you had Council Lady Gamble very engaged, and maybe Councilman Hall, I don't know, but very engaged in that because they stood to benefit. But when you dilute all of it, I mean, I've just divided it, I put an X across, and you could have different quadrants, even if you say, you know, the North Quadrant has more dark blue, so they get more of the $10 million, and then divide out that $10 million where you have the X percentage that goes to the dark blue and all this kind of stuff. I think this is gonna be overwhelming. I think, I I would have a hard time, like I said, narrowing down 35 projects to 5, especially when probably 30 out of the 35, or maybe even more, based on my district, it has no relevance to me. And not from a selfish perspective, but just that I don't feel like I need to enter into a conversation in Council Lady Gamble's district or anybody else. Again, I want this to work and I like the concept of it. I just think that we should do it in smaller chunks in order to ensure that you have really good participation and you've got people voting that care about what is in front of them versus the entire county. And especially when you're talking about smaller type things like something in a park or, traffic calming on a particular street it probably is very much needed in that area, but it doesn't necessarily affect, 98% of the rest of the county. So anyway.
I just want to I saw a hand. Was it yours, Sarah? Sorry.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a different question. And when you're talking about sort of across the entire county, you're talking about, let's say there are 50 different projects that are identified in the process that'll be voted on.
35.
35. Yeah, fair enough. Question is, in terms of coming up with what the dollar value is, I noticed there were dollar values in the ballots in terms of who's doing the work for them. How is all of that determined?
So when the budget delegates are working on the ballot, they work closely with the metro departments, the appropriate departments. So let's say they wanted to work on a playground on a particular park. So I will bring in the Parks Department, and then they will provide feedback on their request. And so that happens quite a bit, that they'll say, well, how much does it cost to build a playground in this particular park? And so I take the proposal to Parks, they'll put a scope of work, and then they'll price it. And then usually, like on the second cycle, the budget delegates made a rule that they had to put a contingency of 5% on top of that. So the price is developed in conjunction with the metro departments that are using best practices to price it. Because the idea is that once people vote for something, you want to be able to build it. And so it's the goal is to make sure there is enough money there so 6 months down the road it can be built. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Jose.
I really like conceptually the notion of participatory budgeting. I like it a lot. I'm going to support it. I'm not being asked to craft a program. I do have some of the same concerns that have been raised. I would just say, that the implementation that you do spend, not when here you're on stage, but you spend a little more time really addressing and thinking through and maybe talking to a couple to really address the notion of this being of not parsing it out. I do understand. I hear you when you say it works. I do have those concerns about the notion of on the one hand, you're trying to be too inclusive, but you might create some disengagement at the result for it. Again, I haven't gone through it. I hear what you're saying, but I do share some of those concerns. One thing that I'm not being asked to talk about the program, craft a program. I tell you what I would love to see. I don't think this is a possibility, but I'll just say it because I have the mic, and that is I would love for business owners in those districts to be part of the whole model, right? Like if someone says, yeah, we're going to build the park, in terms of impact to that community to really get your bang for the buck and really bring the engagement to somehow, and I understand it's probably just very, very difficult because that's a procurement process that involves, Metro and all that, but it would be great to have some of those the installers, the folks in construction, the designers and all that, for members of the community to be the ones to have a more active role than Metro departments. But that's just wishful thinking.
No, it's not wishful thinking. As a matter of fact, we've done it. Part of the guidelines on the first cycle is that we hire locals as much as possible, and we did. For example, all the concrete work on the bus shelters was done by a local contractor. the guidelines is key. All the comments that you guys are giving me regarding the implementation of this, I was hoping that you guys will, when we file the legislation, to do an amendment describing what are the adjustments you want us to adjust, and then we can actually, at that time, change the implementation to reflect. I mean, when I design a house, I ask my client, what do you want to see in your house? And then I design the house accordingly. We didn't have an opportunity here to go through that process, so I was hoping that as you guys work on help us with the guidelines for the process, that you will give us some guidance of what is your vision for it.
Just one additional comment along the lines of the main topic here, which is sort of how to divide things up. You know, I do share the concerns, again, as just like Jose said, I'm very much in favor of participatory budgeting. It sounds like it's really worked effectively in more discrete areas rather than, you know, countywide. That's still a little bit of an unknown because it's such a large area. But I do feel like it's important for council to evaluate, despite the great concept behind doing it countywide, are the results really going to ultimately be as equitable as they could be? Because you're talking about the expense of getting things mailed out because of just the lack of ability to reach people consistently. If you have certain neighborhoods that have better resources than others and better access to computers and lobbying going on Nextdoor and things like that, all of a sudden you could actually have your results skewed a little bit compared to people that might be a little bit closer to a project. I know there's not going to be a perfect answer, but I guess I'm just a little bit concerned that having so many disparate interests competing for the same dollars is going to create something that we're going to step back and say, gee, we hate that happened, but it did because we made it a bit too broad.
Yeah, I mean, I will agree with you, but by having the vulnerability index as a measure of how we spend the money, then we ensure that areas that are more vulnerable, which tends to be areas that have issues of lack of access to internet and other things, they have a better chance of getting items included on their results. But I hear you. I mean, is it perfect? No. Is it unique? No. I mean, we have cities like New York City where they do this citywide, and New York City is much bigger than Nashville. So I strongly believe that is possible. This is the first time we will be doing it in Nashville, but that's why we didn't start with citywide. We start with a local pilot program, and we did it again a second year. We learned a lot from the process, and I feel very confident that we can take it citywide. But, you know, you guys are in charge, so I respect whatever decision you guys want to do.
Question, kind of budget-wise and the ballots that are going to be mailed to everyone's home, will those ballots only be in English and there would be like a code for the other language ballots, or would it be like a front and back sort of thing?
Ballots won't be mailed to people.
Won't be mailed?
No.
Oh, what was being mailed?
A postcard.
Postcard.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the postcard, we were going to design it with information in different languages. And so we are going to ask our partners, our local partners, to help us make sure that we target those mailers appropriately. Yes.
I thank you. I just want to add that some of the challenges that you all are expressing as far as equity in voting because of lack of access to computers and things like that, all of those were issues with the last participatory budgeting. In the Bordeaux area, there were a lot of older senior residents who don't use computers, but through the process, Fabian and the mayor's office made voting available at the Bordeaux Library. They have guidelines and processes built into the program to address some of those issues that you all are describing. So I just wanted to mention that.
I just want to thank you all for letting me come and share with you.
Okay, we do have a motion. We have a second. Are there any more questions? I feel like I should wait for Jose to come back from a sneeze attack. So I don't have any more questions. I guess we'll wait for a minute. I think he's literally just out the door. Fabian, I had one question. Yes. I don't usually ask questions, but you had mentioned everybody got 5 votes. Is there a unique identifier so that somebody doesn't vote 5 votes 5 times?
In Bordeaux, North Nashville, the steering committee decided that they didn't want to ask people for any voter registration, that they were going to accept that people, when they declared that they reside in a particular address and that was going to be that counted. And the only thing we did is we check the voter file afterwards, who voted, to make sure we didn't have duplications. On this cycle, it'll be up to the steering committee to decide. I already explored with the IT department creating a postcard that we can mail to households for people to vote. But it'll be up to the steering committee to decide if they want to go that route or not. We, and the steering committee or the council, as we work on the guidelines, you guys will tell us how do you want to implement it, and then we'll make it work.
Yeah, we recently had a vote for our neighborhood for some traffic calming, and it was a unique code. So you could only vote once.
Yeah, I already checked with IT just in case that was a question that people asked.
Okay, all right. Councilwoman.
My mouse keeps doing this noise.
I guess I'll make one final comment. I do like the idea of participatory budgeting. I would feel more comfortable with the idea of smaller quadrants. But because I don't want to vote against this, I'll abstain. And I don't know if there is a desire from when this goes to the council members, or if there's more information you could provide us, Fabian, if this changes somehow, or if it doesn't, we'll go from there. But I guess for tonight, I'll abstain. Just because it's going to be hard. I have almost every social media platform you could think of, and I send a newsletter every 2 weeks, and I do it in English and in Spanish, and it's still hard. It's really hard, and so unless, I guess I could have further conversations with you, Fabian, and see where we're at if this passes this committee.
I think there's several members of this committee that have expressed concern about the scale of it, and I think you're going to get that same type of concern from the council as a whole. And what I don't want to happen is it goes to the council, this recommendation. I'm going to voice this concern. I'm not going to assume, but I would think that Council Lady Sepulveda would also voice the concern about the scale of it. And I don't think what you want is for it to get voted down. I don't think you want to have a ton of amendments start coming through, and all of a sudden then you've got, participatory budget soup. So I'm gonna vote no, because I feel like we can divide this into, whether it's quadrants or whatever, I don't know. But I think you're gonna get much better participation and a better idea from these particular communities when they're voting on things in their communities, or, right in their vicinity, versus 35 projects all over the place. I just really feel strongly about that. So I'm not going to abstain. I'll vote no, because I don't think this is ready to go to council.
Councilwoman Gamble.
Thank you. In light of all of the I guess, concern, I'm willing to withdraw the motion, but I have a question first. Have you, Fabian, in your experience in looking at what's being done in other cities, is there a way to break this up into quadrants where it would be equitable? Because I don't see how you can do that. How would you break up the quadrants? How would you determine?
We had already explored with the planning department to break it into quadrants. That was part of the ideas that I had explored. The problem is to make it equitable, breaking into quadrants was getting away. We even thought about just doing the top, more vulnerable quadrants to be more in line with the ARP requirements. But we felt very strongly that it was important for everybody in the city to participate at the same time in this process out of equitable development of the process and getting everybody involved in a self-government process, democratic process. We can do it in quadrants, but it's just going to be more expensive, more bureaucratic. It will be slower. And but it's fine. I mean, it's.
How would you determine how much money went to which quadrant? I mean, you would just break up the $5 million, and then how many quadrants?
What we did is I've been working a lot with the planning department, exploring different scenarios, and like I said, this was the scenario that seemed more equitable to me and to other people in the office. The one breaking into quadrants was looking into dividing the city by population. The problem is not every region in the city has the same amount of population. So when you divide it in equal quadrants, like an arbitrary X or that creates a portion that it has less population, another portion has higher population, and then if you put the same amount of money in this quadrant and this quadrant, then the lower population is getting a bigger share of the money than the higher population. So the thing that made more sense was to use the SBI to make sure that the people that are more in need were getting the money, and in that way we could actually follow up with the requirements of the ARP requirements.
I think there's a better way to divide it up because, like, for example, if you just have a quadrant where straight up and down, right? So to the left of 65 and south of 40, that the vast majority of that area is 0 to 2, whatever, the not very socially, not very challenged. So they're going to get less money really anyway. So I think there's a different, instead of dividing up the money between the quadrants equitably, as far as this quadrant gets 2.5, this quadrant gets 2.5, to say, well, this quadrant, because it has so much more of these challenged populations, do it that way. I can't fathom having this thing in countywide. I don't see. I understand what you're saying, and I understand the challenges of dividing it up into a quadrant or whatever. I think the Bordeaux North Nashville thing worked because it was that area.
Okay, so the Bordeaux area has 57,000 residents. If we divide the 750,000 residents of the city into 4 quadrants, but we don't do it by population, then you're going to end up with one sub-region of 350,000 residents and another one of 100,000 residents. So the problem that you were concerned about in the big city, now you're having it again on the area that has a quadrant of 350,000. So you're basically going to have to break it down into, I don't know, what is 750,000 divided by 50?
Oh, God.
So you see what I mean?
No, I get it. I don't know why it has to be divided among population when we're not talking about population. We're talking about challenged.
Yes.
So, out of 750,000 people, what percentage is actually in that dark blue?
But I thought you were concerned about the quantity of people.
Right, but you can take areas that have a lot of blue. It doesn't have to be quadrants. It could be divided up in 6. It could be divided up in, you know what I mean? But just to where you have an area where, like, my district and Sandra's district are close. We go to the same restaurants, we go to the same library, we go, we drive in that area, we live in that area, we go to the parks in that area, we know that area. We don't necessarily know, Councilor Gamble's area, because we don't go to those churches or businesses or whatever. So when you have projects that you're voting on that are in your district, you're going to be much more compelled to participate because it matters to you.
So to make, let's say you want to do 4 regions. So now you have 4 steering committees, 4 budget delegates, 4 ballots, 4 processes for the whole city to really address the 4 individual regions, 4 marketing plans, 4 engagement processes for the whole city.
And I don't think that's necessary either. I think you can have a steering committee to handle rules and how it needs to be handled.
No, you need to have a steering committee for each subset because they are going to be the ones overseeing the ballot that that particular region is going to make.
So if they're all coming from the different council districts, couldn't you have a main steering committee, and then out of that main steering committee, let's say it was the Southeast Quadrant, my person, Sandra's person, Nash's person, all that. So you'll have 6 or so people and a sub-steering committee for that particular quadrant deal. So it's not like you're reinventing the wheel 4 times.
You could do a overarching steering committee and then a subset for each region. But you're still going to need 4 processes for each one for each region that you want to create.
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to kind of ask a question of process because, I think what I sense is that there's a strong support for allocating $10 million to participatory budgeting. Where the issue is exactly how it's going to be implemented. From this committee, I don't think there's, another meeting where we're going to all of a sudden be in agreement about what the new process ought to be. And I don't think we're the proper forum for that. I think the council is. So, is there a way to approve the allocation to this and basically have a steering committee consisting of the council members or have some group of council members that sort of consider the alternative approaches to implement this? Because I just think the people that represent the different parts of the city are better equipped in this committee to consider option A, B, or C in terms of how to divvy it up. But I hate to see us just sort of keep participatory budgeting, unconsidered because we can't reach agreement here.
That's what I was hoping, that we could have a meeting with the budget committee of the council or even with the whole council and just for me to be able to know what is that the council wants to see happen and then I'd make any adjustments.
Can we do that before we allocate? I think we're putting the chicken before the egg.
Oh, yeah. We can have the meeting next week if you want. I need that meeting. The only reason I was tempted to start doing it, but I didn't want to override or disrespect this committee. So I've been waiting for you guys to give me the green light so I can start working.
Okay, so, but what I hear is to not actually make the allocation until that meeting happens, or make a recommendation for an allocation with the condition of, and can that happen?
Yeah, I'm sort of okay with it both ways. I think ultimately we will allocate $10 million to participatory budgeting. But I think there's a lot of questions on how and, are we going to find the perfect way? No. But we might get to where people have a better comfort level around it so is there a way to make the resolution where we're saying we're setting this aside for participatory budgeting, but we're going to, I don't know, or should we just wait? What's the cleaner thing to do?
You could do it either way. You could allocate the money and delegate the drafting of the resolution, the kind of how we normally do that now, or you could wait until after the meeting, have it on the next agenda for this committee and see the final product. We could probably work it both ways.
But I would need your permission to do that.
I agree with Sarah 100%. And especially, again, sitting from the seat of a non-council member on this committee, my appetite is for making the motion for approval, approving the allocation with the caveat that that it behooves you to go persuade and convince and put the right parameters for the programmatic deployment of this money before you bring it to council. And that could take a week or a month. That's up to you and the council to decide. So if I'm reading the room right and agree with Sarah, I'll make a motion to
Yeah, we
approve the
haven't
10 million.
historically done that, but I was just checking with Alex. So we can make a recommendation, but we're not filing the resolution with the detailed plan until the other committees come up, the committee comes up with the way we're going to slice the pie.
The specifics.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'm
And then it would
I'm fine with that.
And then we'd have, I guess, like we've done in the past, have the sponsor.
Yeah.
Then,
I guess, okay, my question is this, are you saying that, because there's a couple ways you could do it. One, you could allocate the 10 million here and then wait for the budget for the council committee. Is the council committee going to have a recommendation? Is that what the goal would be? And then you'd adopt the resolution from that recommendation? Or is that a discussion?
I would think so. I would think that it would be a special called meeting of budget and finance and probably planning and probably everyone to introduce them to the concept, because while the North Nashville folks understand it and have been through it, there's a whole lot of us that are like, participatory what? So learning about it, how it works, all that stuff, so that we can, and in a lot of ways it's starting from scratch, because you're going to get a lot of different, a lot of different ideas, but I think, I want everyone to feel comfortable about it, and then I know you do too. But you wanted this meeting, and you were just, so I think we're all on the same page.
I've been waiting for the green light for you guys to let me do it. I mean, I promise you, I've been dying to talk to the council members. It's just I didn't want it to be disrespectful of the committee.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Fabian, because if not, I would be like, we're doing it again. So no, thank you for that. I think if we're going to do that we make it very clear. The committee did agree with there being a work session, so people don't think that the work session is going over the committee, like Fabian had wanted to make sure that people didn't think, and the committee members felt respected. So I would just make sure that we very specifically say the committee does want 10 million allocated, with the input from the council member work session to make sure that we're doing this the way that everyone is, in the most equitable way possible.
that's a motion.
Oh, no, before that, that's my motion. One thing in the council work sessions, typically that tends to be input and not a decision. So maybe the cleanest way to do it is to delegate one of the council members to draft the resolution with the input from the council committee, since they're not going to decide what the resolution will be.
And since Councilmember Gamble made the first motion and she already went through the process, I would voluntold Councilmember Gamble.
Okay. Then that was the original motion. I think the clarification is this committee is making a recommendation for $10 million for participatory budgeting to be clarified through a work session of council members. At that time, the resolution will be drafted, reviewed by Councilmember Gamble to make sure that it incorporates this committee's wishes, and that will then go to council. Yes. Second. Any other questions? All in favor?
Can I say aye too?
I have 6 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and I very much look forward to see the feedback I get from the council members.
Okay. All right. We do have just a couple other items that I don't think are going to take as long. Really, the next one, if you all recall, I did send the original proposals from Turk and from Legal Aid Society. Turk was working specifically with some immigration support services in partnership with a couple other nonprofits. Legal Aid Society also with a couple other nonprofits. And at the time, that was in June, we did not have the full 2-year request available. They each got roughly 87% of their request. And so this was just to really bring back in front of the committee the 13% request. That's the first thing. So Councilwoman Sepulveda?
Yes. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the Turk funding that we had in our proposal. What was it, 13%? What was the remainder number? I don't have it in front of me.
I have it. Okay, so with Turk, excuse me, their original request for 2 years was $2,092,627. We were only able to fund $1,820,585. The difference for Turk is $272,042.
So
That's the 13% that they
Yes.
didn't get in the first.
I would make a motion to finish funding that amount because it sounded, we had agreed that we wanted to fund these two programs. We just didn't have enough money from the first bucket. We were still waiting on the second bucket to come in. And so my motion would be to approve that. I'll leave the other one to someone else because I need to abstain on that one. But that's my motion.
Okay.
I'm just lost. So what's 671,191?
That includes then the $399,149 for Legal Aid Society. So the 13% is the combination of the 13% for the two different organizations for a total of the 671.
Okay, so that's what your motion is for the 671?
She was saying she can
Just
only
for
make the
Turk.
motion for one.
Oh, just for Turk?
Because I have to abstain on the other one, so I'll let someone else take care of that one. Because I did sponsor the first allocation to Turk.
Okay. Sarah?
So the Turk application included the sub-grant.
Yes, with Tennessee Justice for Neighbors.
So are we carving that out, or is that part of it? We're just saying that's, because I didn't know what you meant by the second one, whether that's,
The second one is Legal Aid Society.
okay.
So we have-
You're talking about the totally separate proposal.
We
Okay.
have right to counsel work being done by
Yep.
Legal Aid Society and partners. We have immigration support services being performed by Turk and partners, is the best way to say it.
Yep.
And each of those organizations, separate resolutions, separate contracts, separate work, but they each received 87%.
No, okay, I just wanted to clarify.
So the first would be to put the 13% back into each of those original 2-year contracts. It doesn't change the terms of the contract. It doesn't change the term of their work. It just would add the additional funding to those contracts. The total of those two combined is the 671. It's 272,000 for Turk, 399 for Legal Aid Society.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a second on Turk. Does anybody want to make a motion for the Legal Aid
I'll
Society?
make the motion for the legal aid.
Okay, and I need a second. Okay, so is it okay if I take those combined?
Well, but she could, no.
Oh, no, that's right, I have to make them separate.
Abstain?
Sorry, separate. So we have a motion to provide the additional, what I'll call 13% that wasn't funded for the original 2-year contract for Turk. We have a first and a second. Any questions? All in favor? So that is 6-0, no abstentions. Then on the second, we have a motion and a second for the additional funding for Legal Aid Society for $399,149. Again, that's the 13% related to the original 2-year contract. Any other questions? All in favor? I have 4 and 2 abstentions, I should say. I shouldn't assume abstentions. I have 4 in favor. Any against? And 2 abstentions. Okay, Jose and Councilman Spoldova. Yes.
Can I ask to be the sponsor on the Turk one?
And can I get a sponsor on the second one? Okay.
Oh, that's what she's talking about. You want that one? You'll do that one.
Okay.
instead of me.
Got it. Okay. Now, both of those organizations also asked for a 3rd year. we talked about wanting to see some of the program results first. I assume that is still the case. I'm keeping it on our open requests, but I wasn't expecting you all were interested in voting on that yet until you had more information. Okay. All right. The last thing on the agenda is just confirmation of, I did send out the spreadsheet that had the future agendas. I referred to that originally. And I just wanted to make sure, I heard from a few folks. I would like to start contacting the folks at the bottom. They are the requests that are not being included for further consideration. There's only one that has reached out to me. That was Friends of Mill Creek Park. They reached out after, just in the last couple days. So I told them we didn't believe that was going through. I'd like to contact the rest of them, but I just want to get a consensus from this committee at this time that somebody isn't going to say, no, I want that heard. So I've got two hands. Okay. Councilwoman Sepulveda?
You're saying that Mill Creek is coming off of people we would hear? Because they had contacted me a long time ago. This was last meeting.
This is what was sent out in two different emails asking for comments. We've got to move on because this committee has to make the. I'm not stopping anybody. I'm just saying, unless I hear, I'm going to start, contacting these folks to say thank you at this point. I just don't want to keep people's hopes up that there's a.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I just know that Mill Creek had reached out to me several times from a long time ago, and I even took a meeting with them.
I've had probably about 8 to 10 emails and meetings.
So I'm fine with hearing them unless my colleagues are like, no, we're good.
Sorry, let me get mics. I'm limited how many can be on. Go ahead.
To put it into perspective, after tonight, we've allocated to where the balance of what we have left is 61 million and some change, and that request is $21 million. So that was one of the reasons why we said, while it's a fantastic project, clearly, I mean, they sent beautiful renderings and whatever, I just think it's outside of the scope when you're talking about $21 million, which is a third of what we have left. To put it to one project is, it's just too big of an ask, I think.
And we talked as a committee that there were pieces of it that, obviously not 21 million, but if they want to take some pieces of it that are really critical to participatory budgeting, that they have that opportunity. And that was a few of the other items on this list.
And I just want to remind everyone and the general public that at the last meeting, we looked at the projects that made a countywide impact and decided that the ones at the bottom of this list were more specific to an area and not necessarily a county-wide project, and that's why we decided that these particular requests could come through other opportunities like participatory budgeting. So I just want to remind that we decided what would be on this list based on the countywide impact of the project.
Right. Jose?
I do want, I hear that I do want our place to be moved up and not disregarded. I've become familiar with their work, and while it's related to housing, their proposal is related to housing. It's not a large proposal. I would like just to hear what their proposal is about with more detail.
Okay, and I have to apologize.
Our place, our house,
our house.
We're
gonna. Yeah. I'm gonna get that right.
Yeah.
Okay. Would that be? Let me reach. I was just gonna ask if it's housing. I'd like it to come with that. Now that's only a week's notice, but that seems to be the most appropriate place to put it.
They've reached out, and I've taken a little time to learn a little bit about their work, and because it's housing and it's affordable housing,
okay,
not homelessness, but it's housing. I think it's meritorious to hear their proposal.
Let's put it on next week's agenda. Okay. If I have all the contacts of everybody. If I have a problem getting to it, I'm going to reach out to you just so we can get to them quickly. Okay. we will work with this agenda then going forward, and I will make some contacts then with folks, just to if we end up with additional funding, we will come back to this committee and say, who is it that put a request in that we want to consider? At this point, I will also tell you, if I get any more requests, I have started to say, I sent out the agendas, I can take you as a waiting list, but I'm no longer going to bring them to you. I think we need to work with what we've got.
And I just wanted to point out, I got an email, I don't know if they copied the whole group or not, but Magruder has reduced from 3 million to 1.75. I had asked them to go to general services because that is one of our buildings, to really hone down on that request.
I got that today also, and I am going to follow up with MNPS. That's the one thing that I do want to make sure that MNPS isn't saying, hey, don't cut it short. We need some other things.
And then also, I do have some clarity on the hands-on Nashville thing.
Yes, but we'll have
a discussion. But that request is going to come down significantly.
That's good for this committee to know.
Yeah.
We're going to get that clarified. But that gives us lots of time. December's so far away. Well, it's really not.
Not at all.
It just seems like it. But we will have updates for that. And same with Magruder. I did see that. I just wanted to double check with MNPS, since really they lead. Yeah, they really would lead that work with general services, as well as Catholic Charities and United Way are the, United Way actually has the lease to the building, so they need to be part of the discussion. But anyway, okay. Very good. We're making progress. Thank you all. That does adjourn our meeting for today, and thank you for agreeing to another meeting next week.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.